Hello everyone, and thank you for joining.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Rethinking Customer Engagement in a Post-ACA World, brought to you by Forrester. First Source and featuring speakers from First Source and Nelson Hall. My name is Tom Rathod. I'm Corporate Vice President with New York Life Insurance, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Just a few housekeeping points before we begin. All attendees are in listen-only mode. You may type any questions you have into the questions box on your screen. We'll answer as many of these as we can during the event. Any unanswered questions will be addressed within 48 hours of the webinar close. Now, without further delay, let's introduce today's topic. The Affordable Care Act has forced insurers to think beyond traditional benefit buyers and consider the rapidly expanding number of consumer buyers entering the market space through the National Healthcare Exchange. Serving this diverse population of buyers, who may have less experience purchasing healthcare, requires a sophisticated omni-channel strategy that includes web, social, mobile, and even brick-and-mortar approaches. We'll feature two speakers today who will help us understand and benefit from this shift. Up first, we have Vicki Jenkins, Industry Analyst from Nelson Hall. Vicki leads research focused on industry sectors of retail, retail banking, and telecommunications, cable, satellite. She has served as an industry analyst and in PR with Convergys, and also in roles in the healthcare and education industries. She is currently working on a report focused on CMS in the healthcare industry sector. Vicki, please take it away.
Thank you, Sue. Hello, everyone. I do have the opportunity to research the customer management services market from an industry sector perspective. And like Sue had mentioned, the marketing efforts of payers have had to adapt to the market changes related to the Affordable Care Act. In addition to working with employers and the government, they are now increasingly working directly with customers through the new healthcare exchanges. Multi-channel interactions are a way to engage with this broader audience, and multi-channel customer care has been a part of this change where payers look to reduce costs and increase customer satisfaction. Increased regulations in regards to screening to prevent fraud, reduced administrative costs, and standardized processes all impact payers. Over the past couple months, Nelson Hall has surveyed executives with the responsibility of handling customer care from 28 health insurance payer organizations in an effort to understand customer care issues being faced by payers, as well as the usage of multi-channel to provide customer care. The study details shared today will refer to the payers surveyed. I will also refer to the healthcare subscribers as customers rather than members because of the market changes and how they need to be viewed as customers. And moving on to the next slide. These are the main concerns payers are facing in regards to customer care. Not surprisingly, these concerns closely match the drivers payers cited for use of multi-channel customer care. Compliance and budget limitations are closely connected, primarily due to U.S. government regulations on administrative spend. With compliance and budget limitations at the top of the list, channel balance is a close third. Payers are looking to reduce costs through the use of multi-channel strategies. Multi-channel balance with traditional channels is thought to meet the customer preferences. While reducing costs, payers also look to maintain or increase customer satisfaction. Cross-selling as well as processes for meeting regulations were cited. The processes are cited as ways to track compliance, such as response time for appeals. Call volume fluctuations were cited as well, and that's relating to enrollment. Positioning its customers care for future to meet the channel preferences of the growing diversity of the customers was also cited. Next slide, please. Well, I have mentioned multi-channel a few times already, and it is defined in many ways. If we polled the attendees on this call, many of us would even define it differently. So how do payers define it? I've shared a few examples of how payers defined it, and three key themes emerged when payers think about multi-channel. 60% included the term digital, 20% talked about integrating digital and traditional channels, and 20% discussed its use to enhance customer experience. It really is all about integrating channels to enhance the customer experience. Next. This slide shows the extent to which payers are seeking potential benefits from multi-channel service adoption and the extent to which they have realized each of these benefits. This chart shows the proportions of respondents that scored these highly, which included scores of 4 or 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. So what are payers seeking from multi-channel customer service? Well, payers don't want to achieve just increased CSAT or lower customer service costs. It's highly important to them that multi-channel customer service will deliver both. At the same time, the main focus of multi-channel customer care is primarily on existing customers rather than new business. Customer churn is currently high for this sector, so increasing repeat enrollment rates and reducing customer churn is highly important right now. So what pattern of benefits have payers typically achieved so far from their initial implementation of multi-channel customer care? Well, the majority of payers have achieved both increased customer satisfaction and reduced customer service costs, with 3/4 of payers reporting high realization of reduced customer service costs. However, multi-channel customer service has arguably made an even greater contribution to improving the customer experience. Here, over 90% of payers report increased CSAT or NPS, with multi-channel customer service overperforming in delivering increased first call resolution rates, which in itself tends to be a major driver of CSAT, and this improved customer experience does appear to have made a significant contribution to increasing repeat enrollment. In terms of the mechanics of multi-channel customer service, introduction of digital channels has also made a major contribution to enabling voice agents to deploy their skills where they are most needed and focus mainly on complex or high-value interactions. Next. This slide shows how payers expect the mix of interactions by channel to evolve over the next 3 years. Essentially, payers expect a major continuing shift from voice to digital interactions over the next 3 years, with the proportion of interactions handled through digital channels increasing hugely from approximately 29% to 40% of the total. Accordingly, payers expect that number of interactions handled through digital channels in 3 years will virtually match the number handled by voice. While provision and submission of information through the payer website will remain critical, web chat will increase massively in importance, with the proportion of interactions handled through both reactive and proactive web chat expected to more than double over the next 3 years. Payers are looking to extend customer service hours as customers look for increased availability through non-voice channels. So I have a personal experience to share here where web chat would have been extremely helpful for me when my husband waited until the last minute to complete our open enrollment. We got stuck, we had questions, and we were not able to reach anyone until the next day, and of course had a long wait because it was the last day for open enrollment. We do see a deflection from voice to website, fact sheets, web chat, and IVR. where the more complex interactions will be handled through the voice channel and less complex through non-voice channels. It is always interesting for me to look at strategies being utilized in other industry sectors. A telecommunications provider was looking to increase market share and become a one-stop shop for its customers, and call deflection from voice to online became very important. This company is providing customer care through all channels, but is offering incentives and discounts to customers using web chat and online interactions. So strong communication is critical when creating a shift in channel usage. Next. We looked earlier at the extent to which payers have realized certain benefits from multi-channel customer service. This slide takes that a step further and quantifies the impact of multi-channel customer service on specific payer business metrics. Multi-channel customer service is reported as having a positive impact on a wide range of customer service metrics, including a positive impact on both the customer experience and on reducing customer service costs. However, as might be expected from the earlier discussion, multi-channel customer service is perceived as having the greatest level of positive impact on customer experience-related metrics, with strong improvements shown across increased CSAT or NPS, increased first call resolution rates, and increased repeat enrollment rates. In addition, though it was typically not strongly targeted by payer organizations, payers reported a significant uptick in agent satisfaction, perhaps as a result of changing the mix of interactions handled by agents in favor of more complex and interesting queries, with the more mundane interactions increasingly being handled through self-service and digital channels. Next. During this presentation, I'm sure some of you have been thinking about obstacles you might need to overcome in your organization. It's important for payers to understand possible internal objections to increasing the use of digital or multi-channel customer care. The lack of metrics and ROI to support the case, as well as the time needed from internal teams, top the list of obstacles. An example for overcoming these obstacles is to begin with a small pilot where important metrics can be measured. For example, the amount of time utilized by the internal teams to be measured. From a regulation and compliance perspective, an example of something that could be measured would be meeting the time regulations for responding to appeals. Next. Multi-channel customer service is clearly working for payers, and accordingly it is no surprise that 79% of payers are looking to expand their use of multi-channel services. This support for expansion typically centers around three groups of activity: expanding the availability of multi-channel services, ongoing change management with both customers and agents, and driving service improvement. First, expanding the availability of multi-channel services beyond what was initially available. Initiatives here include making more types of customer service and more complex products accessible through digital channels, and also extending the hours during which digital channels such as online chat and email support are actively resourced. Clearly, these channels are increasing dramatically in importance, and so it makes sense to increase and optimize their availability. Second, there are ongoing change management activities to be undertaken, both marketing online services to train customers and increase the adoption of digital services. Also continuing to train agents to be able to scale up in the delivery of digital services. Finally, service improvement is being driven through the use of customer analytics. Next. So what initial benefits did payers receive through the use of third parties when implementing and managing multi-channel customer service? Two major benefits were to access tools not available in-house and faster speed to market in terms of faster implementation of multi-channel customer experience. Organizations will often have relatively low levels of prior experience in using key digital channels such as reactive and proactive web chat, and under what circumstances to favor each of these over the other. So third parties potentially have a role to play in bringing wider experience such as deployment to the table. In addition, third parties were perceived as having a significant role to play in assisting payers to deploy analytics in support of ongoing improvement of the multi-channel customer experience and in identifying and mapping key customer journeys. It is critical when deploying multi-channel customer service for organizations to undertake customer journey mapping on an end-to-end basis to ensure that customers enjoy a smooth rather than a fragmented customer experience. Clearly, payers are moving down the multi-channel customer engagement route. It is working in improving customer satisfaction and reducing costs. Payers expect that the number of interactions handled through the digital channel in 3 years to match the number handled by voice, and are working to prepare for this anticipated shift. I will be available for some questions at the end of our discussion today, but now what I'd like to do is turn things back over to Soom.
Thanks, Vicki. Up next, to help us understand how best to address and serve the customer shift that Vicki described, we have Michael Roy, VP Strategy, Channels, and Advisor Relations at FirstSource. Michael specializes in BPO, sourcing partnerships, and best practices that realize new revenues, reduce costs, and enhance customer loyalty. He is known for his leadership of North American business development strategy and direct, channel, and advisory sales management. Please go ahead, Michael.
Well, good morning and good afternoon, all. I'm glad to take this time to talk with you in what I think Vicki has teed up along with Soom as an exciting time in the healthcare industry, and particularly as it relates to customer engagement. As we take a look at all of the things that are coming forward in what has traditionally been either a payer or provider environment, and how either patients or members are treated, I think now we're being introduced into the new evolution, which is taking that into the consumer base. This can be a frightening evolution, both from the consumer side as well as the payer and the provider side. And as we take a look at what that entails, oftentimes the fear can come from the fact that now we may have a consumer base that doesn't have the full education that may have once come from dealing directly into businesses, into brokers, into other environments. And so how do we engage these new consumers in both the payer and the provider side is critical to how we approach the market. So as we look at the modern consumer today, we know that they are active in the course now of their choices. They are mobile in the fact that as we look at consumers, we look at the demographics of these consumers, we look at the needs of them. We need to be able to address them not only from traditional sides that we may have been able to force upon the market in the past, but how do we meet that consumer demand best? And that includes everything from social, mobile, being able to analyze them effectively and being able to deliver services to them much more across all of our platforms. That connected everywhere and meet me everywhere demand of these consumers will continue to grow. These consumers are also empowered. They have choice now in where they can go, and that will continue to grow with the regulatory and the market forces that are playing down upon both the provider and the payer spaces. They are more technology savvy as we look evolving not only from baby boomer environments, but also into Gen X and particularly the millennials, Gen Y, where that technology savvy nature comes in. The demands of that, of meet me anywhere, to be able to provide my needs, falls into not only what's expected of healthcare, but across multiple industries. And so that ability to influence not only what I choose for myself, but across the social and mobile channels, oftentimes as a consumer, we'll find that we can influence others. And therefore, this has much more of a ripple effect on the market, and both positives and negatives. And I think that's important to note. Oftentimes, we focus on what is called a flame, or something that may be put out there into the marketplace and creates a ripple and the negative effect. Both now, we have the power to counter that and counter it effectively with the quality of customer engagement and good service, meeting them back across those same channels. So as we take a look at this modern consumer that we'll be dealing with, we also need to take a look at what are the forces of this market creating, where are the opportunities that we can work both within the regulatory as well as in the changing marketplace in order to be able to meet these and come out winners in the course of our engagements. As we look at the customer process, and companies no longer control so much of this, and that's a yes and a no. While the consumers are empowered, we also recognize that they have needs, and those needs are within a finite market. There are many players and providers out there, but it is still within a state-controlled or regulated environment oftentimes. Oftentimes it may still be within a company or corporate control. But despite that changing marketplace, that education of the consumer becomes a critical process. And so these are the wise investments now as we look at the paradigm shift in customers and in where we need to be able to meet them. This also includes being able to deliver effective education, being able to make it easy, clear, and easy choices given all the different things that may affect them from both the patient and a member services context. So these become our new opportunities as well as our high challenges. How can we meet them best where they are? How can we deliver best education? And how can we make it easy to engage and to make the right decisions for themselves in the course of this emerging marketplace? Next, please. This multi-channel or omni-channel approach becomes an interesting place for us to look. And we'll talk more deeply across a few of the slides that we've got here. But the objective here is not to look at just doing more for the sake of doing more. It is how can we help deliver things more effectively into the marketplace and win there. And these come out very strongly in how can we improve the customer experience, how can we grow revenue for our companies and our objectives, how can we improve the efficiency as we look across the multiple systems, multiple touches that may need to occur here, and how can we reduce the cost to serve at the same time as increasing that overall customer experience. These are the great opportunities as we look at multiple channels, the multiple contacts that may come in, the various products and services that are being offered, and then how are we measuring them that ultimately, when we come back to things, drive again to what are the core objectives. So it's not just about doing more. It's actually just about being more efficient, communicating much more effectively, and reaching not just as broadly in a shotgun approach, but far more targeted approaches of one-to-one. And once we can affect that one-to-one, we can affect the one-to-many much better as well. So we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but coming back, these multiple channels, contacts, et cetera, all still drive to the same common objectives that we've been driving to in the past, particularly where other industries, other markets may have led healthcare in it before. So as we look at this one customer journey and this one-to-one, this comes back to the same pieces of how do we get the experience up, how do we improve our overall efficiencies, how do we reduce those costs to serve, and ultimately affect the bottom line. Next, please. So from multi-channel to omni-channel, and there are many debates here about what is critical, and oftentimes this falls right in. If we were to start and look at what has traditionally been our methods of being able to communicate with our members, with our patients, and across prior markets, if we were to look at telecom and media and where that's gone before, banking, finance, insurance, they have pioneered and are on their fifth or sixth generation of how they source, how they communicate, how they relate to their customers. And there's great learnings that exist out there in the marketplace that healthcare can glean and grab the best from. So as we look at traditional channels where we might engage today, and that might be voice, it might be snail mail, it might be email, and for all the right reasons in the past context. Today, we'll find that our consumers are engaging across more, and being able to bring more automation, more analytics so that we can understand where they are and what they're really looking for. What's the 80-20 rule out there that we really need to be targeting? Then we can take these multiple channels, whether it's voice, IVR, across the voice channel with some automation, email, and what has traditionally been out there, chat, and how can we push things out to customers while we're engaging with them via a chat vehicle that might be more efficient. But we can also now send them links. We can send them very relevant information. We can send them direct access into the online services that are becoming more and more points of engagement of the web. And then we can move into what are also those social channels, those forum channels that are going to become very relevant. Not all of them are necessary, but being able to take a look at what is the unique demands of my customers that I have, whether I'm in the payer or the provider or into an in-between or niche market segment of those. How can I best meet and where are my customers? Running those analytics effectively, being able to understand where they are they engaging most, and then applying those best channels back and being able to present that right brand, that right face, and the right service that will help them resolve their issues, educate them well, becomes a great conversation and great questions to ask. Next, please. Matching customers with their channels is really just meet me. Members are satisfied with the preferred channels when they're being offered to them. So as we take a look historically of where are we in healthcare today with some modern statistics, email is still a very strong and powerful place for us to play. And this comes in taking a look at where are our points of engagement on a day-to-day basis. Where are we spending hours of our time as modern consumers out there in the marketplace? And as we look at email, traditional mail still in the healthcare space has been there. The direct points of service that we might have with doctors, the annual birthday reminders of making sure that we're following up on our regular healthcare checks, specialties that we might have out there, dental, eye appointments, etc., become great points of reminders and engagements, unprompted, and yet at the same time remind us to make good use of being proactive in our healthcare and making sure that we're looking to minimize expense and cost and making sure those points of engagement that both drive timing, scheduling, revenues, etc., from the payer and provider side all make good sense. As we look at applications that are out there in the marketplace for phone, for app, and for desktops, we can take a look now. The smartphone application market is emerging. And where we only see 10% here in the healthcare market, it is exploding in other markets and services out and around us. Those that are getting a little bit caught up or ready for that marketplace have already begun to design basic featured functionality. And again, using right analytics to decide what are we going to put out on our applications that give our customers full security to be able to log in, take a look at their accounts, or if we have concerns about that security, can they at least book appointments? Can they at least see what's out there and available from new services? Can they get the right reminders out there to them that are useful for them in their day-to-day applications or questions they may have about their healthcare services? And then again, traditional phone, while it's registering only at 8%, and we can expect that statistic to either hold or dwindle, because there will always be a segment of the market that after I've exhausted other resources, or it's purely my one point of engagement that I wish to have out there, phone services are essential. Being able to have that voice-to-voice when it comes to critical pieces of service, critical diagnostics, et cetera, that may be out there in the marketplace will always require a certain element of phone or point of service. Being able to engage directly with a care manager or nurse along with the doctor in that point of service, trusted individuals that they have in those points of engagement are key. And then lastly, there are always those that will say that there's none desired, leave me alone. I've got it and I'll ask for it when I need it. Therefore, there's always going to be a percentage of that engages in any service or any degree as well. But what we expect as we look across these customer channels is to also then take a look at where have others gone as we look to other industries that have gone before us in customer engagement. And there's some great statistics that we can learn from there. and also some ability to leapfrog in the market without making the same mistakes. So as we take a look across channels, where is it most meaningful? This is a great starting point for where we are today. Next, please. The importance of digital channels. As we look at the marketplace, and many of us just in our course of our own engagements as consumers out there in the marketplace recognize the criticality that we have for digitized engagement. Our customer management and customer experience sides are key to being able to take a look at where do I engage in the course of my day, and where do I engage in the course of my healthcare needs as I look to reflect that back in. How am I using tools such as analytics to be able to get out there and take a look at from the provider side, take a look at where are my customers engaging, but from the consumer side too. I also have great analytics that I can go out to and take a look at. Which of my healthcare options do I have from a payer side, from the insurance side, to be able to look there and see who serves my market, who provides the best plans, where are price points for the types of service that I'm seeking. That digital engagement that's out there for me to become educated and make a wise decision continues to grow and will continue to grow more and more in the marketplace. So it's no longer dictated to us as consumers who we need to go to, but is opening up more and more. Now that requires greater education from both the payer and the provider side in order to make sure that the brand, the service offerings, and the education of how to make wise choices is out there. And that we're engaging in all those right forums where consumers will be going. As we look down the channels where consumers engage today, and the proportions of those, obviously still the voice side is very high. Now this contradicts a little bit of what we might see in preferred channels, but it doesn't really. This is only where we're allowing our customers to engage with us in many respects today. In both the payer and the provider side, oftentimes the first points of engagement that we have is to engage by phone. So as we look at that current proportion, that proportion is forecasted to reduce by close to 20%. And as we look at that over the course of the next 3 years in time only, how do we plan our own customer engagement? How do we plan to re-educate those that are serving our customers or build for those needs more effectively? Website frequently asked questions is a great place for us to go to as well. And as we look at those 3 points or so of uptick that we'll see in website engagement simply for frequently asked questions, we will probably see that and more. The great things about taking a look at websites and the FAQs is this can also be engaged across other channels. And so I'll jump a little bit into how I can go into and engage FAQs in IVR. How can I engage in FAQs and basic information by providing links when I'm being served through web chat. And so when we look at chat and how chat now can push a quick video, chat can push a quick link to where I can get that information and no longer require someone to talk them through via phone, but expedite that opportunity of communication to my customer much more effectively. This becomes a great way for us to be able to take FAQs across multiple channels and reduce that time and that cost to serve. Web forums are great places for us to go and be able to make sure that we get digitized engagements rather than one-off papers that we're pushing today. And being able to make sure that we're compliant from a regulatory environment is critical. Yet at the same time, as we look at shared information across a group, as we look at being able to create customer personas that their information can follow them, healthcare provider to healthcare provider, as they look across moving between different insurance plans, et cetera. Being able to digitize our persona and what we can provide out there and keep it within a secure environment will be fresh challenges for us in the marketplace, but also great opportunities where instead of having multiple instances of one-off paperwork existing out there in the marketplace that needs to be repeated and repeated in the changing and moves, we'll now be able to carry forward a persona of individual consumers in that one-to-one like engagement. Let's take a look at Twitter and Facebook and what exists out there today as well. Twitter and Facebook are the predominants that are out there. There are many others that are saying no at this point in time, that Facebook has already passed its prime as we look at the newer generation of millennials. So as we take a look at what's out there, is it required to have a presence and to have a brand out there? Absolutely. And frankly, we'll find that our consumers are looking to find us out there in these various digital engagements. But just having a brand or having a post out there at this point in time is insufficient. We have to provide meaningful information that provides education, that provides clarity, that provides simplicity of choice, that provides education, that provides proactive health information out there that's useful. So what we use as content today is going to become more and more critical, and we're going to find the modern day consumer is out there hungry for that, especially as their choices become much more enriched. Next, please. This one is the chart to invoke fear. As we take a look across all of these interaction managements and the framework that exists there, the busyness that we see of what's out here can oftentimes drive quite a bit of fear into any organization that needs to engage its patients or its members today. But also, as we look at the consumer engagement, this model that we have here demonstrates the maturity, not just the complexity, but the evolution of what truly exists out there today for us to engage our markets more wisely. So as we look at the art and the science, if you will, in the course of customer engagement, the science is nicely bookended by both the analytics that we're able to achieve as well as the automation that we can provide in the delivery. The analytics portion today, as we look at what we can find out about our customers and prospective customers today, we can look to find out how are they engaging us today, where are they getting best points of information, where are they satisfied, where are they not satisfied, so that we can fine-tune all of the components in the middle much more effectively. Today with analytics as well, we can get into even predictive sides of things. Where are we at a point that we have a propensity to churn, a propensity to lose our customers in those factors, and where can we refine new ways of retaining those good customers that are worthwhile and want to make sure that we've got staying on. So being able to look at that propensity to churn, but also who is out there shopping, who has a propensity to buy our services. And as we look at those predictive analytics and who is out there today in the marketplace and is asking those right questions, we can begin to act much more effectively in not being just reactive in the marketplace, but also proactive, of being able to reach out and target market, less shotgun, more one-to-one, or one-to-those many within those subsets of where are our best markets and where are our best targets. So analytics actually makes us smarter, wiser, more cost-effective as we go forward in the marketplace. Lastly, as we take a look at this, we also need to realize in the modern healthcare environments, who has a propensity to pay and who has a propensity not to pay. Those are realities that exist in highly regulated environments, and yet the service still needs to be provided within those various pockets. So as we look across our pockets of service and those points of service that are ready to be able to manage those who have a propensity to pay and those who do not, we can then grab some of that analysis and best align our products and our services to be able to meet them. Let's take a look at the automation side on the other bookend. Automation exists today for us to make things far more efficient versus the old snail mail and voice only that we might have engaged with in the past. Automation allows us to drive voice into IVR, but not just to delay or postpone or frustrate our consumers that we have out there in the marketplace, but to deliver much more efficient information, route their contact more effectively, and limit the number of items that they need to engage with in the course of that automation of an IVR, but perhaps deliver an answer in a one-touch solution. And we're finding within IVR that we can provide for that much more effectively of where do I need to go for point of service and be able to provide that address. Simple engagements of who do I have available and being able to determine that by some of the service points that I can enter in. Can I use automation to direct me much more effectively to a pay service if I'm already currently dealing with an invoice, invoice questioning, or I simply have questions because I'm coming up on open enrollment, and how can I best get my questions served for the type of consumer that I am in the businesses that I'm working with. So as we take a look at this automation, those are simple things just within the IVR channel alone that we can take a look at. Also, as we look at automation, this can perhaps be the most critical is let's take a look at the number of systems that exist out there with our current payer and provider systems today. To be able to overlay systems that can interface and feed that same information regarding a particular consumer persona and be able to provide and draw that information back up so that we can become much more efficient in the course of those engagements as opposed to the individual smokestacks, can drive far more efficiency, far more speed into the marketplace, far more customer engagement and solution in a faster resolution, and that frankly that means far more payment that arrives earlier into the marketplace as well. So the criticality of the automation and how that comes in from anywhere from the initial customer engagements on traditional channels, driving down traditional mail, driving down traditional voice because we can resolve it via other channels, is a great place for us to play. But then also in the back office of how can we service these customers much more effectively is a great place for us to be. As we take a look at other arts that exist within this space as well, I think it's critical for us to realize that, the people and the process portion in the middle here is essential. And what I mean by that is where we have those points of engagement. For those that are answering the phones, answering the questions, driving the process, and looking at how can we better bring together art and science into continuous improvement of how do we look at our customers on the analytics, on the inbound and the outbound better, what automation needs to be brought in, how do we answer and respond across these multiple channels of voice and chat and email and social and mobile, and become much more efficient along the way. The art and the science combination here is, again, the evolution that we can look to those that have gone slightly before healthcare in the marketplace, grab some of those best practices, and be able to move forward much more effectively. Next slide, please. So as we take a look across the digital channels and operating models, most of this has not changed as we look at customer engagement and what does it require in a center of excellence to do so. So from the perspective of the provider, we can take a look now at the customer engagement center and where are we today. And traditional pieces from recruiting and engagement, training and development, monitoring and optimizing, where are the metrics that we're using, and the performance methodologies and customer insights, and how do we feed that back into the cycle. All of that exists to one degree or another within most of our operations today, even the most simplistic. However, the things that are down there at the bottom, regardless of how complex we make our engagement models across various digital channels, those that are down at the bottom don't change. So let's start from the bottom up. Let's take a look down at the bottom of the screen here and recognize that our overall objectives in all of this still continues to be the same. We look to improve the customer experience. We look to improve more one-point resolutions that we can drive to in order to make sure that our customers receive the information that they need, receive it effectively so that they are both receiving the service that they need and that we are able to therefore grow revenues and be in the course of being able to provide those products and services that we have in the marketplace. We can look to improve efficiency by driving those customer insights and the analytics that we have, both at the front end and at the back end of service, but also bridging that throughout the course of things. Can we monitor and optimize those points of engagement? Where do we have room for transformation and for systems optimization where we can go ahead and improve the overall cost to serve much more effectively? So again, as we take a look at digital engagement and multi or omni-channels, we are actually still driving to those same points of how can we make it better, faster, cheaper for both our customers as well as more efficient in our overall operations and therefore sustaining, if not growing, the revenues that we have as our objectives as well in the marketplace. Next, please. Vicki's already talked about much of this as we look at CSAT, and so we can reference back to some of the statistics that she provided as well. And I think as we look at care costs in the course of the relationships and what we're calling, the CSAT component for reduced customer care cost, this is a nice blend of what we've just been talking about. How do we look at increasing CSAT, our NPS scores, or the blended that we're using to measure our consumer satisfaction and delivery in the marketplace? How do we reduce that overall cost to serve at the same time? How do we increase enrollment rates or participation rates that we have within the marketplace, all depending on our product and service? How do we enable the agents that we already have there to focus on where the most important interactions exist? And how can we drive greater automation or be able to support our customers with the right automation of services, whether that's on the line, online, in forums, in chat space, by being able to push them smart pieces out there, by being able to provide effective content into the marketplace proactively, can drive down those costs of engagement and allow those voice agents that we do have out there to engage now in those pieces that are the exceptions or the more complex pieces of business. We want to look at how can we increase new business revenues as business providers in the marketplace, and that's essential for us to continue to grow and provide better service. And so to be able to increase those better revenues means that we need to learn to become more efficient, become more one-to-one with our customers, and we can do so at the same time as reducing costs. The interesting thing as we take a look here as well is being able to look at not just our customer base, but let's spend a moment to also take a look at internal to our own contact centers that we have today in those points of customer engagement. Within there, we now have opportunities to make specialists of those folks that are engaging, because we can drive far more of the frequently asked questions out into other forms, automation, and points of service, and allow for those that are engaging to become true experts at far more complex questions, empower them because of the trust and the level of employee that we're bringing in here, being able to provide far more higher paying jobs because we're looking at folks that are going to be much more effective. We may not need as many of them, but now we're looking at really driving a far more of an expertise into that agent staff that we have here, providing progression of career within the marketplace, and really helping them become empowered to serve. This brings back many engagements that we've seen, and those good providers that are out there in the marketplace in other industries today. If we take a look at examples, whether it's Southwest Airlines versus rest of industry, and there have been some other players that have been able to model this as well. Southwest doesn't necessarily pay their people the most. However, they are best known for empowering their people to drive actual resolution into the marketplace. They empower them to both make mistakes, but also to learn from them and to deliver back on that with their customers. And how can we then take a look at where are the opportunities providing regulatory guardrails and yet empowering our people to become much more effective, and therefore they see greater satisfaction in the course of their own engagements. And these are great challenges that we have in the course of the evolution of where we're going in healthcare, and how can we empower agents now in this next evolution to become much more effective at their jobs, to have greater satisfaction because of their empowerment to provide genuine resolution, and the tools that surround them to be able to bring that right bits of information to inquiries that they might have from members or from patients today. Next slide, please. So a few brief case studies, and we'll begin to wrap up again on where we are today and invite some of the questions. But I wanted to show a few examples of how these points of engagement can interact today. And as we take a look at this first case study, and this is an interesting one for us to analyze. This first case study actually comes from an existing client that has served the crowdsourcing model. And I'll explain the crowdsourcing aspect and where these folks exist within the telecom space today. But the underlying question also is, how is this relevant to the healthcare market? So let me explain the great success that we've had in the course of crowdsourcing on behalf of this client. From a crowdsourcing perspective, we enable the entire customer care operation within right guardrails and a few points of engagement to exist within the consumer base itself. So we have an MVNO, or as many may be unfamiliar with the MVNO environment. This is a mobile phone engagement, and so a provider that exists out there today. MVNO stands for Mobile Virtual Network Operator, and effectively it's a reseller that exists out there for pricing, brand, culture, content, and experience, a little bit different in the marketplace. And in many areas of the world, this particular one happens to be out of the UK. Many areas of the world have actually gotten a little bit ahead of the U.S. market, and we're starting to see more MVNO coming back in to the U.S. today. But the interesting thing about this case study is that we've leveraged the entire social and forum platform. We've allowed customers to engage directly themselves, working on behalf of our client. We provide the guardrails for that forum to make sure that everything is on the up and up and is engaged properly for the right brands, for the right resolution, et cetera, but allowing our customers to answer each other's questions about what's going on with this new handset. I'm having trouble figuring out how to complete this next application. There's an issue that might exist with the handset, or I've got a question about upgrading about my service. All of these things can be resolved by customer to customer, and those customers and subscribers that help each other best are given a small reward, whether that's voice or data services or whatever that may be, and allows them to come to the top. But that brief reward, but that recognition of being an expert within this has had a great result that frankly we haven't seen traditionally in other areas of telecom. What it has is it's created interest in the service that I'm engaging in, actually brand loyalty that is very measurable, and it allows for others to refer out and bring in other new subscribers, new customers into the marketplace. It's increased the CSAT immensely in our first call resolution. And all that we do as a sourcing provider as First Source is to provide those guardrails. We make sure that we monitor the forms, that everything is on the up and up there. And if something comes up that's either a billing question or is a technical support question, we can move those offline and resolve those. We'll just touch on one or two briefly of the other case studies, and we'll begin to wrap up. As we take a look at chat, and now chat can apply in the marketplace, this particular case study is relevant to where we have thousands of agents deployed in chat today for a major TV and broadband provider that exists out there today as well. Chat has become the contact channel of choice for the customers that are using the service today. They have found that they can best get the questions answered. They can be pushed links or frankly even small videos that show them how they can better interact with their service. The improvements to customer service and to overall first contact resolution has been enormous, and the cost savings has been very effective in the course of this versus traditional voice for the engagement. And again, where we're meeting our customers where they want to be given the service that's being selected. The concurrency for our agents to be able to work with more than one customer at a time and yet use tools and applications that are provided to them to better service their customers is enormous. So again, a lower cost to serve, a heightened customer satisfaction, and meeting that customer via the channels that they prefer. Next, please. Process automation is critical. And again, I think we all can take a look within our own organizations and see many of the smokestacks that exist across there. So as we look at how can we either provide overlays into these systems, provide greater integration into these systems, or frankly advance into better ways for us to touch on them is critical. And as we look at process automation across a particular healthcare payer, we can also look at how can we increase capacity by improving the productivity that's there. How can we help them meet anticipated demand that's coming forward because of the regulatory environment? How can we increase the overall member satisfaction and that experience that they receive, all by bringing in Six Sigma and analytics, some of the tools that we need from time and motion, and by applying those through the matrix and what we call from First Source automation. And that, again, comes into that art and science of being able to grab the right analytics, the wise people to interpret that, and then those that can put it into actual implementation. Oftentimes what we may see in a lot of our own organizations is we can pay for the best analytics that's out there, but we've learned to run lean. And as we learn to run lean in the marketplace, to be able to actually have the people in the process now to properly interpret that good data and then to put it into action, oftentimes requires a good partner to come in and to be able to drive that. This particular case study resulted in an improvement of almost 30% in productivity The cost savings was notable at over $1 million over the 3 years that was set for the ROI on the engagements. And as we look at the overall improvements that we see today and where this can grow into next points of engagement into the healthcare market, we believe that process automation is one of the greatest evolutions that we should plan to engage in for the customer experience portion, but also for our own internal people to be able to resolve issues and to be able to resolve them in a quick and timely fashion. Next, please. And that's it right now for what we have from our case studies and from our current presentations. I'd like to turn things back over to Soom to manage any questions that the folks may have for Vicki or myself.
Thanks, Michael. We actually do have a couple of questions. The first one's for Vicki. Vicki, in your survey, the question is, how many companies were surveyed, and what's the split of those in the survey in terms of national carrier, regional, blues, etc.?
Sure. We actually surveyed 28 health insurance payer organizations. As far as the breakdown, as the different types of organizations, I can certainly share that as a follow-up. I don't have that full breakdown right here to share.
All right, maybe we'll provide it later.
I'm happy to do so.
Michael, if I can ask you a couple. So one that's come up with health payers using social media to participate in discussions and engage with members. These are in ways that may extend the interaction beyond a clinical encounter. How do organizations ensure that HIPAA guidelines are met through such channels?
The governance component of this across any regulatory environment that we have out there today is critical. And so the answer is governance in the short, and I know that that's not an easy answer. However, we have seen other industries go before us in recognizing that it's critical to have regulatory in telecom that we have out there today in banking and financial services. So being able to take a look at the best practices that exist out there in social are key. We would encourage that anyone that is in charge of that, and it's funny because social today oftentimes resides in a combination of different service points within an organization. We'll see it in marketing as a marketing tool and outreach. We'll see it in customer care as an essential piece that we also have out there from one of the new channels. And there's also the IT component. So how do we bring all three of those folks together now under compliance and governance is yes, a challenge, but ultimately it becomes a governance issue. The opportunities that exist, though, once that governance is defined, are tremendous. It's not about how many likes we can get out there in the marketplace on Facebook. It is about how can we use this now in a market that now requires greater education and proactive content that enables our consumers and our prospective consumers to become more wise in how they engage in our products and services and how to make wiser choices.
Yeah, now that you touched upon, it's not about how many likes we get. Here's a related question. How does a company test the effectiveness of a social media or digital channel?
There are great analytics tools out there. FirstSource provides many of these ourselves, but there are great sources and tools that companies can deploy themselves if they have the resources to analyze. So many of them are available out there, and I'd be glad to do a follow-up and provide a segment of tools that are out there. However, those tools will always provide out of the big data that's out there. What do we have that's coming in from a social perspective of not only as a result, who's saying negative things about us in the marketplace, and how can we proactively or go back and address that reactively? But also then, how can we proactively get out there in the marketplace and put the right things out there that create the type of stir, the type of interest, and the type of education that's meaningful? So how do we then measure that as well? Who's engaging? Are we utilizing the right forums? Do we need to be everywhere? My educated response to that is no. There are right forums for certain businesses to exist in, and to be able to get in there and participate those and measure the results of activity, what's being said, where are the opportunities, and what needs to be responded to are all measurable and can be brought back in and provide better information for customer engagement and customer sat, for marketing to be much more effective in the one-to-one and the one-to-many, and then also being able to drive better products and services as well as process automation that might be necessary in order for a particular company to deliver better.
Right. Okay, we're running out of time, so hopefully this one question you can give us a crisp answer to. What's the first step in incorporating social media into a health plan?
The first step is really coming back and taking a look at what are your objectives. Defining objectives are critical, and if we can start with that first step of defining our objectives, and that comes back to, I think, some of the key things that we looked at before. How do we improve CSAT? How do we better engage with our customers? How do we grow revenue? How do we reduce the cost to serve, and how do we improve that overall efficiency? I think you start from those business objectives. That's always the place to start, and then to build back out. Social is merely another channel, but it's a very powerful channel that can have many ripple effects. So if you start from that right objective, I think that's always the ideal.
Great. I think that's pretty much all the time we have for now. Thank you so much, Vicky, and thank you, Michael. And for the participant, the questions that weren't answered or were partially answered, we will send out more information subsequently.
Thank you.
Thank you.